Hello everybody, my name is Charlie and you're watching Eckstoo. In yesterday's video, I showed you the legendary ISD-III, a fan-made ship that is fully modelled and playable in the Empire at War Awakening of the Rebellion. I wanted to take that video series further, so if you haven't seen our first ISD-III video already, I highly recommend that you watch that and then come back to this video. Info card in the top right. So I created 3 custom maps, one that tests the strength of the ISD-I against the ISD-II, run that simulated battle, go through the specs of both ships and then break down the results. Then we follow that same formula with the ISD-II against the ISD-III in a separate map. Finally, the third map showing all of the ships together in a line, showing all the differences between them. But before we get into all of that, it goes without saying that a lot of effort goes into these videos. So if you're a fan of Star Wars, Empire War, or just chilling out with myself, Eckhart's Ladder and Corey Loses, then hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. We recently played Star Wars The Old Republic with a bunch of you guys for the first time ever, and it was an actual blast. So be sure to not miss the next one by hitting that button. So here are all the ships. We have the ISD-I, II, and III all lined up here, and just for good measure, we have the Imperial Star Destroyers 1 and 2 in the back line for extra comparison. Before we jump into specs, guys, my question of the day is, out of all 5 ships you see here, what is your favourite and why? Post your answers in the comments below, we read all of them. Yes, so we've got our ISD-I, as we can see, all the hard points we mentioned, what we will mention in, when we put these ships together. We'll definitely go into much greater detail on exactly the specs of these ships when they go head to head against one another. And you can kind of see in a bit of a lineup. Oh, the ISD-III is a bit too high up there, but as you can see, ISD-I with its iconic design, definitely one of the more mobile ships compared to the other two here, because as you can see, it uses the turbo ability, so boost engine power, so it's a much more mobile ship. With the ISD-II going with a bit more of a darker scheme here, just to differentiate between the first and the second. Maybe it's just a tad bit bigger as well than the ISD-I. It's very hard to tell with like both of them being on different z-axis and not being perfectly aligned. I did try and make them perfectly aligned in the map editor, but seems like it didn't do that perfectly well. But yeah, again, sharing pretty much the same iconic design that you saw in the ISD-I there. The hangars right at the bottom there, which I think all 3 have. Yep, the hangars right on the bottom, like that. And you can see it shares very similar hardpoint placements than the ISD-I, except having obviously ion cannon batteries on the front of the hull there. Shield generators being pretty much the same, and so is the hangars. And it's moving the turbo laser batteries just a little bit further up on the ship. So coming on to the ISD-III, if you've probably already seen this ship in our last video, this takes on a completely different design compared to its iconic pizza slice shape. The hull has a bit of a concave to it, being a bit more slim on the front of the ship. And of course, having a ton more hard points than the ISD-II and I, just having a lot more firepower on all areas of the ship, so you're not fully relying on trying to target the enemy spacecraft with the front of the hull. This thing can fire from pretty much like 180 degrees here, but other than that, still sharing the same shield generators, but having more engine hard points, one being just a bit further down at the bottom here, making it a bit more harder to take out every single engine to slow it right down. But again, having all forms of hard points across the ship, and having things like the heavy rocket launchers on the front of the hull for shield piercing. But just for little extra comparisons, we've got the There you go, Victory-I and the Victory-II. So Victory-I takes on rocket launchers just on the sides of the hull here, and turbo laser batteries on the front. You do have... Does this have a tractor? Yeah, it does have a tractor beam. And, of course, using a volley of missiles as an active ability. Sharing the same shield generator hard points as all the other ISDs. And engine hard points at... Oh, is there only 2 hard points on the engines? That would make sense, because it is a much smaller ship compared to the Imperial one, as you can see there. So... Again, turbo laser batteries on either side here, kind of sharing the same design. If anything, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong in saying that it looks a little bit more like the ISD-III there. Maybe just because, again, the rocket launchers on the either side here. So nothing really more to add on the standard Victory 1 design. Pretty much like a compact ISD, and you've got the Victory 2 that doesn't see a lot of action, and it's mostly because it exchanges out the rocket launchers for ion cannons, so it goes full-on turbo laser approach, having a bit more range compared to the Victory 1, so a lot more like a long-range ship, but again removing all forms of shield piercing. So, and oh right, interesting. It has 3 engine hardpoints. Does only the first one only has 2, so that's quite an interesting change. They seem like they're pretty much the same size as well. So, again, whilst I don't want to spend too much time on these 2, nice to notice that one is completely different compared to the other. While the ISD 1 and 2 are relatively the same, but the ISD-III is pretty much both of those put together and more so. So with these. With this overview of the ships out of the way, let's get started on our first match, which is the ISD-I against the ISD-II. So I'll see you there in just a sec. Okay, here we go. Right, so I'm just going to make sure I've got all of the fighters and ship targeting the ISD-I. And let's have a little quick overview on the ISD-I for this fight. Starting with the ISD-I, the Imperial I class Star Destroyer possesses a sturdy hull and armaments capable of delivering a devastating barrage to any caught in its frontal firing arc. Their fighter bay consists of 6 squadrons comprised of fighters, interceptors and bombers. Its active ability is the turbo ability, making this the fastest, most mobile version of the ISD line, and with its lower price point and build time, these type of ships serve well in groups that can chase down escaping fleets. Much like all ISD ships, one of its primary weaknesses is the enemy fighter swarms. Only even more so as this ship's stats stand at 6,000 shield points and 10,325 hit points. Its weaponry hardpoints are 6 dual turbo lasers, 4 standard turbo lasers, 2 dual ion cannons, 4 standard ion cannons, 2 shield generators, 1 hangar, and 1 non-targetable tractor beam. Okay. As we can see here, man, the ISD-I is already taking quite a beating here. All of its shields slowly being whittled down. Straight back onto the hit points. ISD-II just hit halfway through on its shields. And whilst we are here, let's have a quick overview on the ISD-II. The Imperial II class Star Destroyer harbours far more firepower than its older brother, with the addition of more turbo laser and heavy dual turbo laser batteries, making this a more frontline ship, as its improved armour allows it to sponge more damage than before, whilst also dishing out heavy punishment in return. The second generation of ISD trades out the turbo ability for a weapon power one, allowing it to maximise its damage output in exchanges for its shield generation and overall mobility. It holds more overall health with 6,500 shield points and 10,750 hit points. It holds 8 heavy dual turbo lasers, 6 standard turbo lasers, 2 ion cannons, 2 shield generators, 1 hangar, 3 engines and a non-targetable tractor beam. Okay, right. Now, we're starting to lose some hard points here. Wow, all of the front hull is just gone for the ISD-I, and I think that's going to be a very big turning point on its damage output. Every single hard point here is in range, but with the front hull gone, its damage significantly drops. We're starting to see the left side of the ship slowly lose all its hard points. There goes a turbo laser. Next is the ion cannon batteries. Interesting that the AI doesn't target the shield generators first. Maybe if the ISD-I took advantage of that. Maybe the ISD-I could win on technicality, just on like having a better strategy than the ISD-II. Just try and get these fighters in here. But yeah, wow. ISD-I just about to go down. The ISD-II starting to generate shields back up again because all the hard points have gone. Engines remaining. And there goes the ISD-I. And it looks like the ISD-II nearly took out an engine hard point. Didn't really go for any of the damage hard points there. This is on the hardest difficulty, as we mentioned. But, that it played out like that. I mean, either way, it'd have to target the shield points beforehand, and the ISD-II just doing not that to have a chance at winning. But there you go, just to show just how much of a higher damage output the ISD-II has, as well as its increased armor, shield, and hit points. Really interesting to see. Right, with that out of the way, let's pit the ISD-II against the ISD-III. I think this one's going to be a really interesting battle. So I'm going to put the AI on hard, just to make sure that this is the absolute fairest chance with the AI against the ship that I'll be controlling as the Empire. I don't know if this really changes out the outcome. I think it would a little bit, just with how the AI behaves. And oh my god, I've not noticed until now the Ewok phase there. He is not well. And we are in. So before we get right into it, let's have our final overview on the ISD-III. We covered almost every previous video, but as a quick overview, the final evolution of the ISD-III line shows an upgrade in all areas and beyond, giving the ship more turbo lasers, ion cannons, heavy rocket launchers, beam cannon, and a magma pulse cannon, pretty much ensuring all forms of damage, including shield piercing, and being the only ISD in base form that can spawn TIE Avengers, an evolution on fighter interceptors. Its hard points are 8 turbo lasers, 12 long-range turbo lasers, 10 heavy laser cannons, 2 ion cannons, 2 long-range ion cannons, 2 heavy rocket launchers, 1 beam cannon, 2 shield generators, 2 hangars, 4 engines, and 1 targetable tractor beam. Its overall health is the biggest jump between generations at 9,000 shield points and 15,000 health points. Alrighty. So now you've got all the information for all 3 ISDs. Let's see how this fight goes down. So I think that this is going to be an even bigger difference compared to the ISD-I and II, just purely because of a lot more firepower and the use of heavy missile launchers, or rocket launchers, sorry. And I think that being armor piercing, you're going to see the damage output done much faster because it doesn't have to worry about the shields. Well, it don't matter, the shields are down, but at the beginning of the fight, it's able to target hard points that deal damage before the shields are even down. Again, I'm not really targeting the shield points on either side of the AI here, but as expected, I think, well, actually, maybe it's not much of a difference. I really thought that the ISD-III would end up having more health before the ISD-II went down, but maybe the damage output for the ISD-II is such a big jump from the first one that maybe the jump between 2 and 3 in damage output isn't as big as I expected it. Or it could just there's a multitude of reasons. That was my guess. But we're starting to see, we're seeing one hard point, the heavy laser cannon, go down, but I mean, the shit, it's nothing in comparison to how much the ISD-II is losing here. I gotta say, it's really holding out a lot longer than I expected. I really thought that this was going to be a much shorter fight, but no, the ISD-II is really proving its weight in salt, I gotta say. Even though the difference in hard points is not really that, I mean, it is a bit of a difference, but still. There we go. Starting to lose the left side of the hull. All of the front hull gone. We're losing our dual turbo laser battery. We just lost another one of our dual turbo laser batteries on the right hand side. Just the shield generators and engines left to go. we have lost about 1.5 hard points on the ISD-III, but really, it does not matter. And of course, we've got the use of our TIE Avengers here. That is really putting the ISD-II fighters under pressure. You can see they're just being absolutely eliminated. And there you go. Wow, yeah, okay, so ISD-III did really hold out a bit more than the ISD-II compared to the ISD-I. But, I mean, we already kind of knew what this answer was going to be. There wasn't going to be any plot twists. But damn, that is quite the difference between those two ships. And, well, with how long and how much the ISD-III costs, I would not be surprised. But there you go, guys. That is the ISD-I versus the ISD-II versus the ISD-III. Let me know what you think about this video, and if you want to see more of these ship verses in any Empire at War mod, you just let me know. I can set them up for you and show them. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and if you haven't subscribed already, definitely hit that subscribe button and that like button. Really goes a long way. I have been Charlie, you have been watching Eckstoo, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.